guys, Emily here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make my favorite crock pot potato soup. It's just so creamy and thick and cheesy and just stick to your ribs, delicious, great for a fall or winter day. I am going to be making two crock pots of it. One I'm going to make traditional with ham, and then the second I'm going to make without the ham because my sister is a vegetarian, so that's a good adjustment and option for her as well. Still delicious either way. And then I'm also going to show you how to make a homemade chicken stock broth. Technically it's both. Stock is made when you use the bones, broth is made when you use the meat. I'm going to be using a whole chicken that I'm going to cook in the liquid in the water, and then I'm going to take the meat off of the carcass to use in a different recipe, put the carcass and bones back into the water and boil it even more to get more of that richness out of the bones. So I'll show you how to make that recipe as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Up first is the cheesy crock pot potato soup. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm taking my handy dandy crock pot liners and putting those into my crock pot. With this soup and the amount of cheese that's in it, I really recommend using these. Next, I'm going to go ahead and chop up one large onion. I'm making 2 batches of this soup, but I'm doing it in smaller quantities, so I'll just use half the onion for each of the soups. Once my onion is completely chopped up and divvied out in between the crock pots, I'm going to go ahead and get my russet potatoes. I have found that russet do better than red potatoes in this recipe. They hold up a little better. And so you're going to want to skin these and then chop them into uniform bite-sized pieces. The important thing is that the pieces are all around the same size, or else they will not cook at the same time, and some will be mushy and some will be hard. Once your potatoes are all cut up, you need your secret weapon, which is dry peppered country gravy mix. I do 1 packet per soup or per crock pot, and then you're going to do about 1 to 1.5 cups of milk to wet the gravy, and so the potatoes have something to cook in and soften them up. And then you can go ahead and cook these at low for 6 hours or high for about 3 to 4. As I mentioned in my intro, this soup is usually made with ham included. I'm doing one with and one without to help with dietary restrictions. So I just have a fully cooked ham piece right here. I'm cutting it into bite-sized pieces. It is fully cooked, so I add this towards the end, at about the last 30 minutes that the soups are cooking, right before I add the cheese. So here are the soups towards the end of their cooking. You can see one of them has the ham in it and one does not. I'm going to go ahead and use sharp cheddar cheese. That's the cheese I like to use. And I go ahead and put about 1 to 2 cups in each crock pot. And then you put this in about the last 15 to 20 minutes so it has time to melt and meld with the soup. And as you can see, I am tasting the soup. It's important to do this. This one doesn't have ham, so I am adding a little salt and pepper because it is lacking a little bit of that flavor. I'm adding in the cheese to the other crock pot and a little milk if I need to thin it, and once everything's melted together, it is ready to enjoy. Up next is my homemade chicken broth / stock.
So I have my 12-quart stock pot here, and I have 1 frozen whole chicken. It's okay to be frozen. It's just going to be cooking in here all day to make some delicious homemade broth. So I'm going to start with my vegetables and aromatics next.
The first thing I'm going to add to my pot with my chicken is 2 onions. You don't need to cut these super small. I just do them in halves like this. I do take off the skin. I don't like that in my broth. So I put 2 full onions in my stock pot with the chicken. Next is going to be the carrots. I just cut off the ends of them. You probably don't even have to do that. And then I cut them into about 2 to 3 inch segments and place those right in the same pot with the chicken and the onions. After the carrots, gonna go ahead and do some celery. I do cut off the leafy bits, and then I do them in also 2 to 3 inch segments and put them into the pot with all the other previous ingredients. And then garlic is your friend. I love garlic, so I go ahead and cut it in half like that so that the bulbs stay together, and then I throw the other pieces that fall apart into the pot as well. Next, we're going to go ahead and do our herbs. These are very important. I'm going to start out with some thyme, and you just throw them in there, stalks and all. Then comes rosemary, and again, stalks and all, just throw those in there. They'll cook down. And then I do whole peppercorns. They're easier to strain out at the end. And I do about 1 to 2 tablespoons of whole peppercorns. And then I do a little bit of salt, but don't do too much because it does concentrate. So I do about a half of a tablespoon of salt. And here it is with water. I am boiling this chicken for about 2 hours since it was frozen with a lid on it. And here are the chicken taken out. I am going to shred this for a different recipe, and then I will put the carcass back into the pot to cook even longer. So here I am just taking the skin off the chicken and then shredding it off the bones, and gonna go ahead and put the carcass back into the pot once I have all of the meat off of the bones, because there's still a lot of yummy flavor that you can get out of that chicken carcass. As I mentioned, I am shredding and cutting up this chicken and will be using it in a later recipe, so look for that upcoming video. I like to use it in my chicken tetrazzini recipe because this chicken is so flavorful with all of the aromatics and vegetables, and it's always very moist due to it being boiled instead of baked. So here is the broth back up to a boil with the carcass added back in. Notice that it's about 1 inch under the rivets of the pot. I'm going to boil it uncovered for about another 2-3 hours, however long that you want. As you can see, the carcass kind of disintegrates and breaks apart, and it reduces down to another 2 to 3 inches below those rivets, and that's just concentrated flavor. So here's the broth after I've drained out all of the ingredients through a strainer, a metal mesh strainer. It's very luxurious and silky and delicious. It does have the dissolved fat in it, so I put it in the fridge overnight. This is the next morning. If you can see, I'll hold one up to show you. The fat has solidified on the top right there. And so the next step is very important to get some of that extra fat out. You just kind of scoop it out since it is kind of jelly or solidified, and get rid of that. And that way your broth/stock does not have a ton of excess fat in it. After that, you can refrigerate it for a few days or freeze it and use it whenever a recipe calls for chicken stock. Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you learned some wonderful new recipes, especially for the fall season. Who doesn't love a good cup of soup? And as always, this channel is made possible by viewers like you, so thank you.